Welcome to Chess with Link. Let's talk about how a king moves with grace and efficiency. You see, when I say a king must be graceful, what I mean is a king can never put himself in danger. You can never move your king to a place where an opponent's piece threatens the square. Okay. But what about efficiency? Well, let's take a look at the movement between where the king starts out here at d3 and his objective here at e6 in our Lichess king training puzzle. Kings can move one square per turn in ranks, files, or diagonals. So if we just move the king over to the E file, and then 1, 2, 3 steps up, it takes us 4 turns to reach our objective. Similarly, if we stay in the D file for that journey and move 1, 2, 3 steps up, and then step over to E6, we've again spent 4 turns. But we can shorten that by 1 turn by using diagonal moves. If we go up twice and then diagonally over, or diagonally over to the E file, well, up to the 4th rank, and then up twice, we've achieved our objective in 1 turn fewer than we would take if the king only moved in ranks and files instead of diagonals. So let's do that. King to e4, up the E file, and capture the star. All right, so kings can't put themselves in danger, kings should move efficiently, and kings can move diagonally to help with that efficiency. Cool. Kings can also move backwards. Not from the start of the game, but once that king is out further on the board, he can move in any direction around him, even as a buffer zone around him, because remember, a king cannot put himself in danger, and that means that your opponent cannot move into a square directly next to or diagonally from your king. So let's try moving our king vertically for 2 steps. Then we can move him horizontally, and then he can go diagonally backwards. For our final puzzle, let's think about how we could move that king most efficiently to capture 2 separate groups of targets. And this is where we're going to have to think about going back and forth versus going diagonally. What happens if we go to f5 or f4 first to capture that g4 star? Well, we get the star, then we capture 2 more and end up on the E file, and we're going to have to cross this gap before we capture our next target. And at first glance, it's like, okay, we have wasted 2 turns going to either f4 or f5 and then d4. But remember that when we capture this c5 star, we then have to decide which direction we attack. If we can be just a little bit more efficient, then we can get all the stars in 2 steps sooner. Let's try it a different way. If we go king to d6, then king to c5, then king to b5, we've captured 3 stars, great. And now we do still have to travel, and we have to travel a little bit further. We've got to go all the way from b5 to e3. And at first glance, that appears a little bit longer of a walk than e3 to c5. But remember that the king's not going to have to go back and forth. He's not going to have to spend 2 turns to capture a single star over there at b5. So this is where we take advantage of the diagonal of a king. We capture d6, then capture c5, then capture b5. We don't want to go straight down the b file and then over the 3rd rank. Neither do we want to go straight across the 5th rank and then down the G or E or F file. We want to go diagonally and then step over. Or we want to step over and then go diagonally. Either one of those only saves us a single turn. But in the end game of chess, in that time when you're very carefully moving your king, often while your opponent is throwing knights and bishops and pawns at you, and you're having to carefully guard your pawns as they try to get promoted, well, efficiency matters. Try it out. Head on over to Lichess, set up a chessboard on your desk, and see how quickly you can move your king from one set of squares to another. How quickly you can use him to capture one set of pieces or another. Remembering that he can never put himself in danger. He can never move through a threatened square. And if you want to play effectively in the endgame, you need to try to make sure that every move counts. Folks, thank you so much for joining me today for this little introduction to the king. If you're one of my Outschool students, please send me a message over there or post in the classroom if you have any questions or comments. And for those of you out on the internet, please make sure that you share your thoughts kindly down below. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you might have in a later video. And of course, the comments may prove to be a kind place to learn from each other as we all attempt to maximize the efficiency of our kings.